This episode of the Sarah Carter Podcast is brought to you by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Join the Tunnel to Towers Foundation on their mission to do good 20 years after 9/11. Donate $11 a month at t2t.org. That's T2T.org.
Veterans Day. This is like such an important day for me and my family. And it's interesting because having T2T, Tunnels to Towers Foundation, be a sponsor for the Sarah Carter Show it's actually a big honor for us, and something that we believe in. My husband and I mean, the first time he heard the commercial on my podcast was like, we've got to give to this organization, and we do now, and we love it, and Frank Siller and everything they do. So I'm talking about Veterans Day today, and I have a very special guest, a surprise, wonderful guest that I wish I could be with right now, and it's my husband, Marty. You know, I talk about him quite often on the show and how much he means to me and how much our relationship means to me, because I know it's hard to be married to me. I'm always traveling and doing work for Fox and running around, and he has to hold down the fort and make sure that when I'm not there that our daughter Annalise gets to school and that she has breakfast and that she's dressed, and she helps him. And you know what? Let me tell you, he does all of that, and he does it as a wounded veteran. He was completely blinded in Afghanistan. We'll go into that when he comes on the show. We'll talk about that a little bit and how our family gets through that. And what it means to other families, because we're not the only family that's been affected by this long war on terror. I believe it's still ongoing. There are many other families out there, and there are many veterans out there who have served in Korea. There's World War II veterans out there who were there in Vietnam, and and others, young veterans who have been overseas and are now back here. Please don't forget them. Please say thank you and let them know that you care. And remember to please follow and subscribe. Get all the links and much, much more at saracarter.com. That's saracarter.com. And while you are there, sign up for our email list, because we don't want you to get shadow banned. And I know what that's like. I know how they try to silence us and try to keep us from talking to one another and being in connection with one another. We're not going to let them do that. There's a reason why our veterans have fought so hard for this nation from the beginning of this nation, and it is to ensure that we protect our Constitution and our freedoms and our liberty, right? Before I bring Marty onto the show, I have to tell you about AMAC. And as you know, they're also a sponsor of the show. They're a wonderful sponsor that actually believes in our veterans, believes in our nation, believes in kneeling before God and supporting the military. They are the Association of Mature American Citizens. And let me tell you, there has never been a more important time than right now to be vigilant in the defense of our freedom. And there's no better way to do so than by joining AMAC. By joining AMAC, you are taking the first steps, you guys, to saving the America that you love, the one that I love. AMAC offers an alternative to about every benefit that AARP offers, but guess what? Without the liberal agenda. I stand with AMAC, and I hope that you will too. I encourage you to join today at amac.us/Carter. That's amac.us/Carter. The benefits of membership are great, but the cause is even greater. Join today at amac.us/Carter. Before I get to my husband, Marty, and, talk to him about, our lives together as a family, especially being a wounded veteran, I want to talk a little bit about, Veterans Day and what it means. And I gotta believe that this has to be a really difficult Veterans Day for a lot of families out there, especially those that served in Afghanistan, those that spent so much of their lives fighting the war on terror, watching what happened with the Biden administration, seeing how it was basically the end of the war was turned upside down and on its head. The loss of those 13 Marines right outside of Abbey Gate, all those that were wounded, the loss of all of those innocent civilians by the Taliban, who were handed the keys to the kingdom. The Biden administration basically said, here, you guys guard the perimeter of the Kabul International Airport as we do these evacs. I know a lot of us have forgotten about that. There's so much news going on in the world. We've got, craziness at the border. We've got, stuff happening on the national level, especially with inflation, and we're seeing what's going on with the stock market, and our president is just kind of way out there, and we're all concerned about what is happening. But we have to take a step back. For the last 20 plus years, we have asked a lot of our veterans. We have asked a lot of their families. They served our nation and have served our nation with distinction, fighting terrorist organizations in the shadows. They have given everything. They've given either their lives or mentally they have been harmed by war and the trauma of war, or they've lost limbs, or like my husband, lost their eyesight completely. And their families have really paid the price as well. Their families have also faced the same horrors in very similar ways and sometimes in very different ways that their loved ones did when they were fighting overseas. I just want us to remember that. I want us to remember that, just because we don't see it in the news 24/7 doesn't mean that it's not there. It doesn't mean that those wounds aren't still there, that they're not buried. It doesn't mean that we forget. And that's why a day like Veterans Day is so important, because it gives us a moment, not just a day off or not just enjoying a barbecue, whatever, even though we can, but it gives us a moment to reflect on what it means to serve our nation, what it means to live in such a great nation, and the sacrifices that have been made and the blood that has been spilt so that we can live this way, so that we can have these freedoms. And I think Marty is a perfect example of the greatness that I see in our military and in those that serve our country. My husband, Marty, for me, he's everything. He's a big part of why I am the way that I am. I see the world differently now, maybe because he's taught me to rise above adversity. He never allowed that to take away his happiness or his freedom or his need to protect the country, and he never became jaded because of that. It's amazing. And I've learned, and I hope you do too when you hear him talk, that you feel the same way I do, because I got to tell you, a lot of our soldiers, a lot of our troops that were out there on the front lines, they were a lot like him. They're amazing people. Say thank you to them on Veterans Day. Give them a call. Walk up to them at a grocery store. Even if it's not Veterans Day, just say thank you for your service. Thank you for being who you are. You guys, the best bacon, the best steak, and the best chicken. If you guys are going to have a barbecue this weekend, if you're going to celebrate Veterans Day, and the best salmon you'll ever eat will not come from a grocery store. You'll only find it on the family farm or caught by independent Alaskan fishermen. That's why you need moinkbox.com. You need moinkbox.com. I love it. It comes right to your door. You put it in your freezer. You defrost what you need. And it is fresh, organic meat. Listen to this. Moink delivers grass-fed and grass-finished beef and lamb, pasteurized pork and chicken, and wild-caught Alaskan salmon direct to your door, helping family farms become financially independent outside of big agriculture. Sign up at moinkbox.com/Carter, that's CARTER, to get a year of bacon for free, and then pick up what meats you want delivered with your first box. Change what you get each month and cancel anytime. I love it. Join the Moink movement today. Go to moinkbox.com/Carter right now, and listeners to this show get free bacon for a year. How crazy is that, guys? You're going to get free bacon for a year. There is nothing to lose. That's 1 year of the best bacon you'll ever taste. But it's only for a limited time. Spelled MOINK, moinkbox.com/Carter. That's moinkbox.com/Carter. And without any further delay, my wonderful husband, the love of my life, the guy who swept me off my feet when we were in Afghanistan together, is on the other line. How are you, babe?
Hey, baby. I'm doing great. How about
you? Do you miss me already? Because it's like, I've been going every single week to either the border or to Virginia. It's gotta be tough on you. I know he doesn't always tell me, guys. He doesn't always tell me, but I know it's gotta be tough on you.
After 30 years of traveling the world like I did, and you putting up with it for years, I can't complain when you're gone a couple of days here and a couple of days there. And so it'd be pretty hypocritical of me to complain about that after what you put up with from me. So, baby, while I always miss you, I respect the fact that you have a job to do.
I mean, we both do, and I am blessed. I feel very lucky. And you're right. I mean, we had to learn that we weren't always going to be together 24/7. And when Marty was overseas, fighting in a war that, I mean, thank God for the men and women that were fighting alongside him. But they were fighting for a reason. And it was tough. I mean, gosh, remember I would call you and sometimes I wouldn't reach you. I remember, being on the phone trying to just wondering, is he on a mission or is he back at the base? And, wondering if you were okay and always being so relieved when you called me. I was always wondering what was going through his head. Did you ever think about that? I never even asked you this, Did I ever ask you, but when you were out there in the field, were you thinking, man, I wish I could just call Sara? Or were you just not even thinking about me? Were you just like, oh, I got to get that terrorist?
No, if that was never the case. I wasn't thinking about you. I was always thinking about you, baby. And that's a great thing is the most vivid memory I have, and I tell you this all the time or every once in a while, but that the night before I went out on that last mission and lost my eyesight, but I remember looking at you on the computer and we were able to Skype that night. And I remember thinking, right, oh my gosh, she has the biggest eyes I've ever seen. They're gorgeous. And I always have that memory that, I carry with me. So I think about it all the time, I guess, because it's like the last thing that I really remember seeing. But yeah, I think about you all the time. But, something I wanted to say, because it's Veterans Day, I've been watching TV or listening to it on my phone all day. And, there's been a lot of salutes to veterans. But I haven't heard one salute to veterans' wives and the families that put up with those veterans being gone and serving their country. And the family should get the same shout out. And I haven't heard it. And I want to shout out to you, babe, and to our family that put up with it. I mean, you're the one that's had to pick up the pieces when I came home broken up a little bit. And, you don't get the credit you deserve. People don't realize, they see you busy and they see you in every state all over the place. They don't realize that when you're here, you're accomplishing everything that normally you would do. Plus, you're carrying me around to do the things I got to do because obviously I'm not going to drive. So that's one shout out I want to give to the spouses of the soldiers out there and the families that they serve along with those soldiers.
That is really important. That is, we talk about that all the time. This is something my husband and I, Marty and I talk about a lot, that especially for the wives and for the children, they go through a lot. They have to hold down the fort and they have to make sure, and the husbands whose wives serve overseas, they have to make sure that the machine keeps moving, that the family keeps going, and it's not easy. And then even when you got back from, I guess we could talk a little bit about what happened when you got wounded. I don't know if I've ever said this before, but you were the first call I got after you were blinded in Afghanistan. I mean, you made sure to call me before that, you went under the knife, before they took you in for emergency surgery. And I was lucky enough that you could call me. But I think people do forget about the families. They do forget about the wives and the husbands and the kids and everything that they went through. And remember how hard it was for us when you got back. And, we were going through hospitals and rehab. I mean, we really felt alone for a while. I mean, and there were other extenuating circumstances because of the classification of your job, but it was really tough.
Well, you're right about that. I remember we had protocols in place. If we could talk, we did talk as far as notifying our next of kin. If we couldn't talk, then obviously there was a process in place to take care of that. But I'm lucky I was able to give you a call. And I remember I was going into surgery in Bagram, and I'd gotten flown to Bagram and all that. And I was getting ready to walk into surgery, and somebody said, "Hey, we got your wife on the phone." And they handed it to me. And I told you, I'd gotten dinged up a little bit. I didn't know the
I knew that was a
extent of
lie.
it, but, yeah,
I was like, that is nobody calls me for a ding. Nobody calls me from Afghanistan for a ding. And I was getting ready to go. I was literally like 3 days away from being on a plane heading to Jalalabad to JBAD to meet you. And a lot of people probably know JBAD because it was Zero Dark 30. It's what they made the movie about. It's where the mission took place that to get bin Laden. But I remember this was 2011, even same year. But we had lost our friend. Remember, Chris Hondros was killed 3 days before, and he was a photographer for Getty. He and Tim Hetherington lost their lives in Libya and Tripoli. And you had called me and you had felt so bad. Poor Chris. I remember Chris and Marty had a very interesting New Year's in 2009. That's all I have to say. But Chris was so great, and it was so tragic when we lost him. It was so horrible for everyone. And, I remember I hadn't talked to him in a while at that point, but he was engaged to be married. And, we all dealt with this, and we've lost friends. We've been through a lot. I know you've been through a lot, babe. And sometimes I feel like, there's so much that you can do to help other people, but you lost your best friend. We lost Brian, and that was tough too.
Oh yeah, for sure. We've lost a lot of friends, and when you lose somebody close, it really hits close to home. But over the years, all of us have lost so much, and everybody's got a story to tell about, what came out of 9/11. But I guess you can choose to look at the difficult stuff, or you can choose to look at the parts where it's really brought us together, because that's just kind of, I'm always an optimist, and I like the fact that we are together in this fight, and it's a worldwide fight. I may have just retired, but the only reason I kept working as long as I did was because of the guys I worked with, and the chance to see them and talk to them as well, see them. Metaphorically speaking, I guess, but talk to them every day. I feel like I see them. And that's the fight we're fighting, and it goes on, So, happy veteran to all the soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines out there. The bottom line is the fight goes on, and we can't let down our guard now. And you mentioned something super important, and I thought about it when you said it, but you talked about the Constitution. And the amendments to the Constitution mean something to me, and which one I think is so important,
right,
that we're really struggling with right now, and that's First Amendment. Freedom of speech.
Absolutely.
We do not have the freedom of speech that we used to. So while I was a soldier carrying a weapon overseas, you're a soldier carrying a pen and paper, CONUS, here in the States, fighting for the First Amendment of our Constitution. They didn't make it the First Amendment because it was the third most important. It is the most important. Some people, they'll say, Second Amendment, but the First Amendment, freedom of speech. If you can't talk to your friends, neighbors, and make an influence on people, where are we at?
Yeah, then where are we at? That's what was really so frustrating for both of us. I think, especially when we saw what happened with the withdrawal from Afghanistan, after so many people have given so much of their lives. And, my father, your father, but my father served. He was a Marine. He fought in World War II and in Korea. And my brother was in the Army. We come from a long line of military families. And it's so hard. And we even have children right now, son-in-laws and, all of that who are serving. And it's really tough when you look and you see that there's this kind of lack of respect for our law enforcement and our military, particularly now under this new administration. I think it's just really hard on everyone, and it really affects the families.
Well, you're right about that. I'll tell you, it drives me crazy. I was speaking to your old interpreter up there in the refugee camp in New Jersey this morning. And he was telling me what he's going through, and he is so proud to be here in America. And he
This is our
He
Afghan
is a
interpreter, just so
wonderful-
everybody knows, that worked with me. An Afghanistan interpreter who is here that my husband and I helped bring to the United States with the help of a congressman and a bunch of others. But, he is here. He is in New Jersey, just so you guys know who we're talking about.
Absolutely. And he said, he is mad because there are some people there that he feels do not deserve to be there. And he appreciates every opportunity that the United States has given him. And yeah, I was pretty bitter about the way we left Afghanistan. I think it was very ill-advised. I think there was a plan in place that was totally not followed up on by the administration, but that's a podcast for another day, I guess. But bottom line is,
Right.
he mentioned how much he appreciates the veterans that did everything for his country and him.
Right. And now he's going to do everything he can for his new country. And I know that. And he's going to appreciate it. And he's an American and he's going to love it. And he's going to embrace this nation. And I think those are the principles that we stand for. I think about 9/11 and everybody talks about 9/11 as being a day. I talk about it being 20 years. Don't you think? I mean, for us, it's been our whole life practically.
It's been a long slog, that's for sure.
One of the questions, babe, everybody asks me, they always say, like, how does your husband do it? He's like, I try to explain to people that you always see the glass, for the most part, as half full. Rarely seen you really hit rock bottom, even though I know it's been tough on you. I mean, it's never was easy, just losing your sight alone and a whole new life. But people always say to me, like, how did your husband do it? How did he come to terms with it? And even though I try to explain it, I never do a good enough job. Can you tell people about that, like what it was like? I mean, it was tough on all of us, but for you, you were the guy that did everything. Everybody would go to you for advice. You were the one that drove most of the time. You were the one that did almost everything. And then you had to learn how to do this all over again and then rely on people like me. And I'm not the greatest driver, although I think I am.
My wife's an awesome driver, and I can count
parallel Parker
times on 0 fingers that she's gotten in an accident when we were driving. So maybe I get a little nervous sometimes, but she's awesome. But I'll tell you, what it came down to is I was in the hospital, Walter Reed Bethesda, and you were there. And, you're coming to grips with when they came in and after my 3rd craniotomy, and the doctor came in and he shined a light in my eyes and asked me if I could see anything. And, at first I imagined I did. And then, he's quizzing me. And of course, it was my imagination. I was not seeing anything. And obviously, I'm not going to see anything. But what it came down to is you recognize that. I recognized it. And so you just make a conscious decision. All right. Yeah, it sucks. But, hey, there's a lot of guys a lot worse off. And you know what? I got a lot going for me. So I just take it as a challenge, and you just push through whatever's in your way. Whether it's walking around the block or whether it's framing a basement, whatever you set out your mind to do, you do the best you can, and you make it a challenge. And that's, I think, a lot of guys. One of my friends hit me up today, Harry. And he's a bilateral amputee. And he's the same way, You just got to take it as a challenge, because if you let it beat you, then it will. But if you don't let it beat you, then it won't. And so you push through it, and you just do what you can do. And, hey, what's the alternative? Being dead? So it's way better than that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I tell you, I was so scared the whole time. I kept thinking, like, when they called from Afghanistan, I was like, you may not come back. That terrified me. That just, I felt like my whole world was collapsing in until you got here. And by the way, when you have a husband who's blind, who actually makes you dinner and then redoes an entire basement completely blind, it does all the framing, builds the rooms, and does it so well that it looks like a professional did it. I can't even live up to it. I can't even complain about anything. If you want to know if there's anything that I'm mad about, it's that every time I complain, I feel like a jerk.
Well, you
Isn't
don't
that
need
true?
to because, the bottom line is you work your ass off. And,
That is true.
whether there's anything that you could do that you don't, I don't even know, because you do everything that is required of you, and then you do about everything that's required of me. So it's a long, it's a symbiotic relationship. We've got each
Right.
other, we
It
support
is.
each
It is.
other.
I know I paid you a lot of money to say all these really nice things.
Well, they're true, though.
It is true.
You are.
That's why we make it work.
It is true. It is
Yeah.
true. And that's why, it's may have only been not even 11 years now. It's only 10 and a half years. But, whenever one of us is feeling down or something, I tell you, look, we're just starting down this road. We got another 50 years to go. So,
Positive thinker.
I expect to be there. Oh, yeah, for sure.
I was thinking about our kids and thinking about what people can do maybe to really let veterans know and let veterans' families know how much they mean to them or to the country. I think it's important. Doesn't it make you feel good when people come up to you at like an airport or something and say, thank you so much for your service. We're honored to know you. Or, what do you think people can do to let other veterans know that, this isn't just about a day. This is about service, giving your life, willing to give your life for your country.
Well, absolutely. I agree that when people come up to me and they say stuff, and I do appreciate it. I really appreciate it. But you know what? I appreciate the fact that everybody does something. I was in Israel years ago, several times, and they have a mandatory, except for some religious exemptions, they have a mandatory 2 years service. And, people, we talk about that, or other people talk, we should have that here in the States. Well, I don't agree with that. I think if you gravitate towards the military like a lot in our family did, it's for a reason. That's the type of person you are, and you want to go serve that way. But a lot of people serve in a lot of ways. On 9/11, thousands of people died, and only I can't remember, about 250 of them were military. So then the first responders came in, and the tunnels to towers that you are talking about in the first of this podcast came in, and they're serving them, and I think that's awesome. So, I love being told that people appreciate what I've given up or what I've done, and I totally accept that. But at the same time, a lot of people do a lot of stuff, and there's more ways to skin a cat than one. So whether it's wearing blue or a fireman or a nurse or a doctor treating people, there's a lot of people that give a lot. So I don't want people to think that they did less because they didn't serve. It's not for everybody, but there's a lot of people that do serve in other ways besides being in the military, and I appreciate that.
Oh, well, I love you. And this is, guys, you can hear it. This is the reason why I married this man. Although you were the one that chased me down. We have to clarify that publicly because I've been hearing the rumor mill. The rumor mill, let me talk. The rumor mill through the special forces, community is that I chased Marty down and around all over Afghanistan. That is not true. That is a story that Marty started. That Marty started with his friends. So clarify now the truth.
That's the way I remember it.
Oh my gosh, he is going to stick with that story.
Helmand Province, Bob Ramrod. I woke up first thing in the morning and Ari was over there. Hey, Marty, there's a lady out here who wants to talk to you, Sara.
Oh my gosh. He is going to publicly make this false story stick.
Oh,
you know what?
That was true.
You were starting to sound a lot like James Clapper and CNN and MSNBC right now. I'm just like, not true. Not true, but that's okay. We'll save that story for another day, and then I'm going to walk people through it so that they will know what really happened there. I love you. I'll be home soon from the border. Any final words that you might want to say out there? I know I want to say how much we love all our kids and how they are just like a huge part of our lives, and they help keep our families strong, and can't wait for Thanksgiving.
Well, they are. I was thinking about it today with talking to your brother. I've been talking to him all morning, coming for Thanksgiving. I'm really looking forward to that. But all of our kids, you know, we've got 6 kids. Our 2 daughters, both married soldiers. That's a high bar for Annalise, but as long as she marries somebody that's awesome, then that's all I ask.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I feel very blessed. And I hope that everyone else out there that's listening to this, I hope that, you're as blessed as we are. I mean, it's not always easy, but we find a way to do it together. And that's kind of what I was talking about on a podcast that I'd done earlier, and just about how we can all rely on each other to make ourselves stronger, and we don't do it alone, right? Okay,
Yep,
well, I love you, babe. I love you. I'm going to let you go back. I know Annalise is getting home from school, and I just kind of wanted to have a moment so we could share Veterans Day together, even though we're far apart. Just give her a big hug and a kiss. You see why, guys? You see? I love you too. Now, you see why I love this man so much? It is just hard to live up to. He's just a great guy all the way around. And, there are so many things that our family wants to do. And I'm going to bring Marty back on the show because, and other family members, because there's a lot we try to do for our service members and the community, and our friends are out there doing their part to help veterans' families and veterans as well. And my husband's right. Marty's right. People are serving all in their own way. We all have a way to serve, whether that's writing stories and getting the truth out, whether that's being a teacher or a nurse, whether that's being a mother and being home with your children all the time, whether that's helping somebody. But I think, like, for all of us, we should take a moment to do something outside of ourselves, right? Even on this Veterans Day, I don't know if there's an elderly or a care facility in your area where maybe you could go and maybe someone's alone and say thank you for your service. There's got to be a way to do it where we can kind of get out of ourselves, give back, and remember that we really are the most blessed nation on earth. The most blessed nation on earth. There is no place like it. Marty and I saw everything. When we were in Afghanistan, we saw things we probably don't even want to remember. But one thing's for sure, we know we live in one of the greatest nations on this planet. You guys, attention, the price of silver has increased 340% since 2000, and it continues trending higher. Universal Coin and Bullion is offering our listeners a special locked-in price for just $30 for a beautiful 1-ounce 2021 American Silver Eagle coin, the most popular coin in the world for collectors and investors. Guys, this is a limited time offer and available at dealer's cost only because Universal Coin wants you to own your first newly designed silver bullion coin since President Reagan signed the Gold Bullion Act in 1985. Call Universal Coin like I did, leaders in the most precious metals industry, at 1-800-UCB-GOLD to get your beautiful U.S. Mint silver coin for only $30. Postage is free, and you'll be dealing with experts. In fact, the company's president, Dr. Mike Fulgence, is a recognized American gold expert, and he is the 2021 Coin Dealer of the Year. They also have rare gold coins, but this special silver deal is only available if you use the code Sara, S-A-R-A. Call 1-800-UCB-GOLD. That's 1-800-UCB-GOLD. Finally, I want to say thank you to all the veterans, those who are serving our great nation. You have put everything on the line to protect us. And I want us to remember, you guys, remember all those who served before, all those who will be serving after. So everything we do is important, right? Every single thing we do. And I just want to thank every single one of you for being a part of my show. I know Nasty's out there in Montana. John McGuire, you're also in Montana. Thank you for your service. Thank you, babe, for being the most amazing, most wonderful husband a woman can ask for. Somebody who's always been supportive of me and someone who learned to go past this, I want to say, effed up situation, getting wounded in Afghanistan in such a dramatic way, and rising above that and not letting that affect us or our lives, and learning to love life and being the father and husband that I could never imagine wanting anything more. So thank you for that. Thank you for being who you are and for serving our country too. Thank you to my father, may he rest in peace, for serving our nation in 2 wars, and my grandfather who also served. And all of you out there, thank you for being a part of this show. Remember, this is the Sara Carter Show. This is where we're taking the story back. You can find all the stories and all the links to all my social media at saracarter.com. That is saracarter.com. God bless you. God bless our great nation. And I hope to join you again very soon. Frank Ziller, I am so happy to actually meet you. Tunnel to Towers is an organization, a foundation that I am so proud being a sponsor for the Sara Carter Show. So thank you so much. I think it's remarkable that Tunnel to Towers really thinks about the family as a whole and these Gold Star families. What's that been like for you, dealing with the Gold Star families and dealing with the children?
You know, we have thousands, tens of thousands of volunteers all over America that help us put on events all over. But most importantly, our big event in New York every year where we retrace my brother's final heroic footsteps, always the last Sunday in September. We'll have 40,000 people this year. And we bring all these Gold Star families in, fallen first responder families, and catastrophically injured service members and their families in to be around each other all the time. They understand each other. They're going to help each other heal. You can't explain to anybody else what they're going through. And one thing we're so proud of, which is a new chapter in the foundation, is that we're going to be building a village in Florida, right outside of Tampa, 110 homes just for Gold Star families and fallen first responder families that have young kids, along with catastrophically injured service members. So we're very proud of that project.
T2T.org. That's T2T.org. It's only $11 a month. It's up to every single one of us to do our part to help those that were willing to give everything to protect us and our families.